Which is better, a LinkedIn newsletter or a Substack newsletter? Comparing a LinkedIn newsletter to a Substack newsletter is like comparing a bicycle to a car. They serve completely different functions. So let's break it down. If you have no idea who I am, my name is Shanae Murray. I have almost 1 million followers on LinkedIn and over 260,000 plus LinkedIn newsletter subscribers. And although I personally don't have a Substack, I have leveraged LinkedIn to build a private email list of over 33,000 people on a different platform. And I'm deeply familiar with how Substack works because I have connections like Dr. Julie Gerner, who has 41,000 plus subscribers on her Substack and who leverages X and LinkedIn to get those subscribers. I'm just here to share what I know based on my experience. So let's break down the difference between LinkedIn newsletters versus Substack. To compare these two is to compare something like the car and the bicycle. They have completely different functions. So what is a LinkedIn newsletter? Even though newsletter is in the phrase LinkedIn newsletter, I still want you and your brain to think of this as front-facing social media. Categorize it in your brain as LinkedIn, as front facing. The purposes of these front facing social media platforms are to get people to know, like, and trust you so that you can then lead them to your call to action. That call to action could be your Substack. That call to action could be something like your website. It will depend largely on the model of your business, the season of your business, where you want your business to go, where you want your business to grow. But in your brain, I want you to think of the LinkedIn newsletter as front facing social media, meaning that you're going to leverage this as a tool to distribute your message, to share what it is that you know, and to earn trust at scale. You use this to build credibility over time. One of the things that happens when you publish LinkedIn newsletters consistently is that at the front of your LinkedIn profile, a library of your newsletters will start to gather, and it kind of looks like a YouTube channel, but for your LinkedIn newsletters. The danger here is that you do not own the data. You do not own the platform. If LinkedIn were to disappear tomorrow, all of your LinkedIn newsletter subscribers would go hasta la pasta with LinkedIn. You would not have their emails. The biggest drawback of a LinkedIn newsletter is that even when some of your followers turn into LinkedIn newsletter subscribers, LinkedIn does not give you their emails, which means that you do not own the data, which means again that if LinkedIn were to disappear tomorrow, you would not have their emails. You would not be able to contact them via email. You do not own that data. Now, this is critical to understand because owning the data, especially for any online business or any service business, a lot of the times, if you leave, even a doctor, if a doctor leaves an office, the value of the business will go down. But if you have that data, a lot of times that is a great part of the value of the business if you ever were to sell it or if you ever were to walk away. It also is your financial security. So if you build a private email list of 1,000 people in a year, those 1,000 people are 1,000 people that you can contact in a split second, no matter what, without having to depend on any social media platforms. That means that you could have 50 people on a webinar in an instant, no matter what, without a lot of ramp up, and one high ticket client at least, if you know what you're doing. So it is your financial security. Now, what is Substack? Substack, as you can see here, they say you always own your intellectual property, your mailing list, and your subscriber payment. With full editorial control and no gatekeepers, you can do the work you believe in. The way that I categorize this in my brain is that the LinkedIn newsletter is front-facing social media and Substack is back-end data, even though part of the features that it does have is front forward facing. The difference really comes down to ownership of the emails. So if I have 100 Substack subscribers, I will be able to export those emails. And even if Substack were to disappear tomorrow, I own those emails and I can contact those 100 people no matter what. Substack is back end, LinkedIn newsletters is front forward facing. I would compare Substack more to Kajabi or to Beehive than any social media platform, even though, again, it's a little bit tricky because LinkedIn newsletters, but still see it as social media and LinkedIn. Now, why is this critical for you to have the data? If you are going to continue to grow your online business over the next 5 years, 10 years, even if you're not ready for it today, you have to understand that long term, your goal should be to increase the size of your email list. When you start, how you do it, we'll get into in a different video, but just understand that it should be a very critical long term goal for you. Why is that? Kajabi did a study. They analyzed thousands and thousands and thousands of online businesses, and they found one thing without a doubt. It was that the number one predictor of profitability for any online business is one thing. The is the growth of the email list. The more your email list grows, the more you can predict the profitability and growth of any online business. So when you really start to get into this game, that's the metric to track. People understand the more emails I get, the more profitability in my online business, the more that we can turn people into clients and customers. Substack will allow you to get more emails because you get the data. However, I do want you to understand that there are certain skills, bandwidth, technical things associated with that that you may not be ready for. And you may have never sent an email before to an email list, and you may want to leverage LinkedIn as the testing ground. You may be overwhelmed and already at capacity and sitting on a LinkedIn network that you don't even get in front of. So, LinkedIn does have tremendous pros and it could lead to wins as soon as today. So, what are the pros of launching and sustaining a LinkedIn newsletter? Number one, you get in front of a network that already knows, likes, and trusts you. Obviously, you have more of an advantage and more leverage the bigger the network that you have. For example, if you have 5,000 followers on LinkedIn, you could launch your LinkedIn newsletter today with very little effort, and you could have 500 LinkedIn newsletter subscribers within 24 hours. LinkedIn will do most of that work for you. And by LinkedIn does most of the work for you, I mean literally. So once you publish your first edition in your LinkedIn newsletter, LinkedIn will send a notification to all of your followers. So if you have 5,000 followers, all 5,000 people will get the opportunity to click accept and become a subscriber or to click ignore. Now, whether you get the right people to subscribe will largely depend on the title, but you can watch one of these newsletter strategy videos up here to learn how to launch your LinkedIn newsletter correctly. The thing that you have to know for this video is that you're not going to have to do a lot of manual work and that you can get a quick win as soon as today. It is free and you already have the network. So they're just leveraging a network that you have already put in the time, attention, and energy to build. The second pro to a LinkedIn newsletter is that every single time that you publish your LinkedIn newsletter, your subscribers are going to get a notification inside of LinkedIn, and they will also receive a notification via email on your behalf from LinkedIn. The subject line of the email will be the title of your LinkedIn newsletter article, and the body of the email that they receive from LinkedIn will be the content of your LinkedIn newsletter article. On average, our clients see a 50% open rate, meaning that 50% of their LinkedIn newsletter subscribers are opening the emails that contain their LinkedIn newsletter editions. So what this means is that if you have 5,000 followers on LinkedIn, you launch your LinkedIn newsletter today. Within 24 hours, you have 500 plus LinkedIn newsletter subscribers. And 50% of those people start to read your content every single week that they receive in the inbox. That means that is a guaranteed 250 people that are reading your LinkedIn newsletter article editions every single week without you having to depend on the algorithm. You're completely circumventing the algorithm and guaranteeing that hundreds of people that have raised their hand and that have proven that they are active are now reading what you have to say. And those people are qualified, by the way, to a certain extent. And I'll explain. Once you launch your LinkedIn newsletter, your followers get the opportunity to subscribe. Once they subscribe, they are on your subscriber list. And from that point forward, anyone that sees your content in their feed also will get an instant notification from LinkedIn asking if they want to subscribe to your newsletter. So every single time that someone subscribes to your newsletter, they are added to your LinkedIn newsletter subscriber list. And that looks something like this. The thing is that you will be able to click on their profile. You'll be able to see if they're first, second, or third degree connection. And what they are saying just by being on that list is that they are active. How could they be a subscriber if they are not active? Especially if they're one of your initial subscribers that subscribe within the first 24 to 48 hours. That means that they had to be on LinkedIn during that time and click accept. It also means that they're interested in the topic of your newsletter. If not, they would have just clicked ignore. And that means that they're interested in learning more from you. So they're basically raising their hand and saying, hey, I'm a warm prospect. What you do with that information, though, is really up to you, which brings me to the fourth pro of a LinkedIn newsletter, which is that someone becoming a subscriber is a great way to start conversations with prospects because you see the list of subscribers, you see whether they're first, second, and third degree connections. It's very easy to start conversations. If you're not connected with them, which means that if they're a second or third degree connection, you could send them a message and say, hey, I saw you subscribe to my newsletter. Let's connect. 9 out of 10 times they're going to connect. And then from that point forward, because they're a first degree connection, you can message them whenever you want. And because they're a first degree connection, they're more likely to see the content that you post on the feed. And because they're a first degree connection, you can now invite them directly to your LinkedIn Live event through the LinkedIn Live event feature. And if you're already connected to them, so you see on the list that you're already a first degree connection, it's probably a good time to say, hey, thanks for subscribing. I really appreciate you. Or, hey, thanks for subscribing. What's one question you have for me about XYZ topic? Or, how have you been? I haven't seen you post in a while. It's a great way to start conversations, which lead to calls, which lead to clients, or referrals, which leads to more clients. The fourth pro of launching a LinkedIn newsletter really lies in LinkedIn's domain authority. LinkedIn's domain authority, SEO wise, skyrocketed when they launched something called collaborative articles. This happened about 18 months ago. For a few months, you could answer questions that were generated by AI in something called a collaborative article, and then you received a gold badge. What that created was thousands and thousands of pieces of user generated content for LinkedIn every single day that skyrocketed their SEO domain authority, which means that when you publish a LinkedIn newsletter, you are literally riding on an SEO unicorn, which just means in basic terms that your LinkedIn newsletter can rank on Google very, very fast. I'm talking about as fast as a day, a week, a month. And you don't necessarily have to have a lot of subscribers for this to happen. And if you don't believe me, here's a couple of screenshots that can prove that to you. The fifth pro of LinkedIn newsletters is that you can use your LinkedIn newsletter to lead your LinkedIn newsletter subscribers to a private email list. So ideally, you could use your LinkedIn newsletter to grow your Substack if you have one, and to lead people to subscribe to your newsletter on Substack. It's a great way to leverage your LinkedIn newsletter so that you start to get some of those subscriber emails without having to do any scraping or any shady illegal stuff. These people are telling you it's totally cool if you have my email. Now let's talk a little bit about Substack. And again, I don't have a Substack yet. If you think that I should launch one, put Substack in the chat. Or if you think I should do something more live like a community, put community in the chat. Now, the power of Substack is that the goal here is not to get followers. The purpose, the sole purpose is for you to grow your subscribers. That is the power of Substack. And you get the emails of those subscribers. On Substack, 100 people that subscribe, I get 100 people's emails. You can export them. And so if Substack were to ever disappear, you still own those emails and you can still contact those people and have control. And that leads to real financial freedom and security for your business. You can also have a paid newsletter. So if you go to Dr. Julie Gerner's ultra successful newsletter, it's drgerner.substack.com. You could see that she has some of these editions that you could just click on for free. You can read some of it, so on and so forth, but it cuts it off. If you want to upgrade, then I just have to click upgrade to paid, and then I could pay $9.99 per month, or I could pay $115 for the year. I could also get a group discount if I wanted more than one person on my team to have access to this. And they also allow you to gift it. So if I knew that someone would benefit, which they would from reading her newsletter, especially if you're an entrepreneur, just a high performer, or you want to become ultra successful, I could surprise somebody by just paying for the year and then buying them a gift, and it could be delivered straight to their inbox, which is pretty cool. So if you were to launch your Substack, you would just have to figure out whether you were going to just have a free Substack or whether you were going to also have a paid tier and what you were going to charge, how often you were going to publish, so on and so forth. Most of the Substacks that I have seen are anywhere between like 10 bucks a month to 100 or $200 a year. That doesn't mean that there's others out there that aren't worth more. I'd say Dr. Gerner should charge a lot more. She should probably have a tier for $100 a month and $1,000 a year. Dr. Gerner, I'd pay for it. But we won't go there today. And as you can see in the numbers, this could build over time and with scale some great recurring revenue for somebody. So if you have 1,000 paid subscribers at 10 bucks, that's $10,000 a month that you're receiving recurring that is based on your subscribers. Substack also has something called Substack recommendations. So if I were to subscribe to Dr. Gerner's newsletter, she could have friends or other people on Substack. It could say, hey, do you also want to subscribe to Shanae's Substack? I don't have one yet. It will depend on your comments in the chat, but it could say that. And so ideally, like friends that have leverage and that have visibility and that are creating great content, you can leverage each other's subscribers so that you get exposure to theirs and they get exposure to yours. One of the things that I love about Substack, and this is actually how I originally found out about Dr. Gerner in general and her newsletter, is that it makes it easy for readers to highlight a part of the newsletter and then create a shareable post. So if I like this quote where she's like, the largest clients I'm privileged to work with are world builders. They're at the top. They create their own categories. They operate in no one's world but their own. So let's say that I love that quote. I could highlight it and then I could share it. And what Substack will do is create a pretty cool looking post. It could be square or it could be vertical. And then I could download it and then share it, or I could just share it on something like X. And I think that this is pretty cool. Again, this is how I originally learned about her Substack. And I think it creates compounding visibility. What that does is that I could share quotes that make me look good. The design is cool. And then she also benefits because more people get to know about her Substack newsletter. And that's just the surface of Substack. I know that there's a lot more, but I just wanted you to understand the fundamental differences. And so, really brings us to the question, which is, who does a Substack make the most sense for? I think it makes the most sense, number one, if you understand the tech. If you are going to be the person that's going to be setting it up, writing the newsletters, navigating Substack, and you're not that great at technology, then maybe you shouldn't add that hassle and stress to your plate. The other thing is that you also have the bandwidth. This is another thing that you will have to do. I would only add another thing to your plate if you have the bandwidth and if emails really drive your business. Dan Coe just launched his Substack. That makes perfect sense because he understands social leads to emails. Emails lead to converting subscribers into clients. The more emails and newsletter subscribers that he gets for his business, the more his business grows. He not only has the skills, but he also has the bandwidth. And so it makes perfect sense for him to go all in on Substack. And you have a scalable offer. You have an offer, but if you're already overwhelmed with tech, you don't have the bandwidth, you have a few thousand connections on LinkedIn that you aren't doing anything with already, and you're in a stage of life or in your business where right now you have to master getting seen and master the messaging so that the right prospects start reaching out to you, then you get on a call and you're great at sales and then you start converting some of those prospects into clients, then you really should consider whether or not adding something to your plate is the right thing to do right now and whether it's the right thing for the model of your business. If that's the case, then maybe just start with the LinkedIn newsletter for now and then see where that goes as you start to grow and as you start to get people on LinkedIn to reach out to you and become high ticket clients. If you're someone that's a little bit more advanced in your business, someone that already has an email list, someone that knows that they're going to launch a Substack, I would still suggest launching and sustaining your LinkedIn newsletter and then leveraging your LinkedIn newsletter to lead people to your main call to action, which in your case could be your Substack newsletter.